The story begins 5 years ago within the prestigious Tianjin estate, the foremost swordsmanship family in Hebei province. The setting is idyllic, a picturesque landscape where mountains and water blend seamlessly. Strolling along the lakeshore are two figures. One is the father of our protagonist, the head of the Tianjin estate. He speaks as he walks. If I had 2 sons, I would have allowed him to focus on his studies. The uncle walking behind him chuckles. I understand, brother. After 5 daughters, you finally had your precious son. When you learned of his talent for martial arts, you were practically dancing for joy. The father protests. Well, I believe my son will become the greatest martial artist in the Central Plains, bringing glory to our family and etching his name in history alongside legendary heroes. His uncle consoles him. He's simply not interested in martial arts yet. When enlightenment strikes, he'll advance by leaps and bounds. The head of the estate can only offer a wry smile. Impossible. He'll just pester me to return his books. Suddenly, they hear a child cry. Huang Muk Fong, they exclaim, looking towards the wall where 3 children are running in a panic. The 2 men are alarmed. Who brought Huang Muk Fong into the estate? The father notices his son standing calmly, practicing his swordsmanship before a swarm of angry hornets, seemingly unafraid. The boy finally notices the hornets approaching. As his uncle starts to run towards him, the father stops him, wanting to see how his son will react. With swift precision, the boy wields his sword, cleaving each hornet in 2. The last insect falls, slain by his blade. The uncle, bewildered, turns to his brother. What sword technique was that? The head of the estate, lost in thought, murmurs. Unexpectedly, in such a critical moment, these 3 simple sword moves proved far superior to the Shangxing sword style. There's no doubt now, he truly is a martial arts prodigy. That was 5 years ago. Now, a year prior to the present, beside a gently flowing stream, our protagonist sits opposite an old man engrossed in a book. He watches the old man, a contented smile playing on his lips. That scholarly air, truly impressive. He is a great scholar indeed. Curiosity piqued, he approaches. What book could hold his attention for hours on end? He asks directly, "Sir, may I inquire as to the title of that book?" The old man looks at him with a hint of puzzlement. This ancient text is called Huang Long Yushi. The boy's eyes widen. Huang Long Yushi, the play of the Golden Dragon. His face lights up with excitement. I wonder what it's about. The old man chuckles. Without hesitation, he offers the book to the boy. If you're so curious, see for yourself. The boy eagerly accepts and opens the book. He pores over the characters, impressed by the calligraphy. Incredible. All handwritten. Such beautiful and delicate script. The old man asks, "Do you understand its meaning?" Still engrossed, the boy replies, "The characters seem to hold hidden meanings. I believe it's written in code." The old man lets out a surprised, "Oh, you've grasped quite a bit just from a glance. Do you want me to explain it to you?" A bit later, after he explained it, the boy finally understood its meaning. Just that much was enough for him to translate the following words. And so, the old man and the boy sat in the forest, talking tirelessly. They continued for a while. The old man looked at the boy, smiling to himself. He hadn't expected this young lad to be such a prodigy. Holding the book in his hand, he said excitedly, "My boy, this book is translated from Sanskrit into Chinese. Do you want to continue deciphering it with me?" Hearing this, the boy couldn't hide the joy on his face. Immediately, he clasped his hands together, bowed his head slightly, and said, "Thank you for sharing such invaluable knowledge with me." The old man, also very pleased, looked at him and nodded. Time flew by, and the moon had climbed high in the sky by the time the boy returned home. Just as he stepped through the gate, his father, looking worried, said, "Why didn't you practice your martial arts? Where have you been until now?" The boy honestly explained, "A teacher, a former tutor to the royal family, was teaching me." Before he could finish, his father let out an angry snort. He berated the boy relentlessly, making his ears burn. "You're a descendant of our family. From today onwards, I forbid you from leaving the estate until you have mastered the supreme, heavenly martial arts." With that, he angrily turned and walked away. The boy could only sigh dejectedly. The next day, early in the morning, shouts echoed through the courtyard. These young men were diligently practicing martial arts. Of course, our protagonist was among them, but he was only training under duress. His uncle, standing on a raised platform, called out, "Today's forms practice ends here." Everyone assumed the horse stance to continue the training session. As he walked, he continued, "The horse stance is the most fundamental posture for a martial artist." The protagonist's horse stance looked utterly world-weary. His uncle's voice droned on, "While practicing the horse stance, you must eliminate all distracting thoughts and focus on your breathing. Cultivating qi involves using your mind to guide the flow of qi throughout your lower abdomen, your spine, and your brain. Push out your lower abdomen. Your toes must grip the ground and tuck in your backside." While his uncle talked incessantly, the protagonist sighed, his expression indescribable. His mind was still wandering. "If I encounter an extremely powerful opponent on my journey to becoming a master, my head will be separated from my neck in an instant. Therefore, I want to transform the warrior blood flowing through my veins into the blood of a respected scholar. The image of me elegantly reading like a sage, isn't that more appealing than sweating profusely and feeling dizzy from holding the horse stance?" Lost in thought, the protagonist dozed off mid-stance. Suddenly, a hand clapped sharply on his shoulder, startling him awake. His father stood before him, roaring, "How dare you sleep during training? What do you think you're doing? If you continue to be distracted, I'll make you practice all night. Do you understand?" The boy's face remained indifferent as he replied, "I understand." His father, exasperated, simply turned away. His uncle stared blankly at the two of them, clearly bewildered by the scene. He hurried after the boy's father, calling out, "Wait, I've heard of him falling asleep while doing a handstand, but never while practicing the touching the sky stance." The father stated plainly, "I saw it with my own eyes." His eyes were closed, his breathing even, and he was snoring. The uncle remained incredulous. "How could that be? Did he really?" The father continued, "After I struck him on the back of the neck, he woke from his slumber and immediately corrected his posture." The uncle suggested, "Perhaps you were mistaken? After all, the difference between practicing touching the sky and falling asleep is a very fine line." "Do I need to spell out for you?" the father retorted. "Do you think he'd give up so easily if you were truly serious about his training?" The uncle could only chuckle. Then, unable to contain himself, he burst into laughter. Irritated, the father snapped, "Do you find this amusing?" Between guffaws, the uncle explained, "No, but think about it. He's only 12, and he can already sleep while practicing touching the sky. Isn't that astonishing?" The father simply scoffed. Later that night, under the high-hanging moon, the boy sat beside his stack of books, still fuming. "I should have just slept with my eyes open," he grumbled. "I knew I could sleep while practicing touching the sky, but to let father catch me, I'm such an idiot." Suddenly, a voice called from outside his door, "Young master." The boy's face lit up as a young man opened the door. "You've returned from the Lewis estate?" he asked eagerly. The young man handed him a letter and promptly left the room. The boy hastily tore open the letter. After a few minutes of study, his face broke into a wide grin. "So that's it. I understand now. Truly worthy of a royal tutor. I don't know who wrote the Roaming Dragons play, but they're a brilliant genius." He lay down on his bed, and sleepiness washed over him. In an instant, he was fast asleep. As he slept, something emerged from his mind, hovering in the air. It was a dragon, and the sight made his eyes gleam with excitement. The dragon grew larger, miraculously expanding in size. It soared gracefully around the room, then turned back towards the sleeping boy. It dove straight into his head, as if returning home. He continued to sleep peacefully, though with a slight furrow in his brow. The next morning, he was practicing his horse stance under a large tree. His brother-in-law paced around him with a sword in hand. "I heard you fell asleep during practice yesterday," he said, trembling slightly from the exertion of the stance. The boy replied, "Honestly, brother-in-law, why would you think that?" His brother-in-law stroked his chin thoughtfully. "You're right. How could that be?" The boy gritted his teeth, thinking, "It's because I haven't mastered the sleeping god technique yet that I have to suffer this humiliation." His brother-in-law remained perplexed. He's like a genius and a bumbling fool all at once. If he can memorize everything with a single glance, he's a once-in-a-millennium prodigy. But why does he look like an idiot when he practices martial arts? Why does he have a martial bone talent? It's so strange. He'd been standing in a horse stance for so long. His legs burned and his back ached. "Brother-in-law," he pleaded, "please, let me rest for a bit. Look at my face. I'm practically dying. If you don't let me rest, I really will die." His brother-in-law stomped over. Exasperation etched on his face. "How old are you?" "You're 12 years old, and every time we practice the horse stance, it's the same story. Aren't you embarrassed? In other martial families, they master this by 8 at the latest. Some even manage it by 6. And here we are, in the most prestigious martial family in Hebei, with a father who's known as the best swordsman, and his 12-year-old son can't even hold a horse stance. He thumped his chest dramatically. "Do you know how much this breaks my heart?" he wailed. He resumed his pacing and lecturing. "And if it's this bad for me, imagine how much more heartbroken your father must be. You could at least say something." While his brother-in-law continued his tirade, a slow grin spread across the boy's face. Success. Yesterday it took me a whole watch to do it, but today not even half a watch. His expression was one of pure, unadulterated glee. Oblivious, his brother-in-law continued to pace and rant. "The young master of the Unistate is only 3 years older than you, and he's already one of the strongest around." He rolled his eyes. "I'm not some idiot who throws himself into martial arts without thinking," he thought. "Please," his brother-in-law begged, "just focus and train properly." He only whined for a break, fueling his brother-in-law's lecture further. "Just endure it. Your father demanded it. No matter what, I have to make you practice until you get it right." Despite his complaints, a sense of profound satisfaction settled within him. He still couldn't quite grasp the meaning of the dream. It was the first time he'd experienced such a vivid dream. He jolted awake, eyes wide with wonder. Before him had been a brilliant, dazzling light. He'd moved towards it, bewildered. He'd looked around, trying to make sense of it all. 3 distinct paths stretched before him, leaving him utterly lost. He'd been completely baffled. No matter which path he chose, he ended up back where he started. He stood before the 3 gateways, utterly perplexed. Then it hit him. That's why this place feels so familiar. Is this place somehow tied to my destiny? Back in reality, he continued his horse stance, pondering. "I don't believe it's tied to my destiny." His brother-in-law continued to circle him, grumbling. "Just hold on a little longer. You're almost at half a watch." Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him. It was his father, rapping him sharply on the head. He spun around, startled. "Father!" His father glared at him, but said nothing. His brother-in-law hastily bowed. "Father-in-law," his father barked. "What in the world are you doing?" His brother-in-law looked confused. Gesturing towards the boy, his father snapped. "Do you think he's actually practicing the horse stance?" His brother-in-law stepped towards him, observing. "A perfect horse stance will reveal the flow of qi and blood." The boy's father barked, irritated. "But look closely. That's how one practices Zhan Zhuang breathing. Why is he coming over to scold you? Are you daydreaming again like yesterday? Defy me? Is that it?" The boy grimaced, filled with regret. "Damn it," he thought. "I was so caught up in that strange dream that I let my guard down." His father continued his tirade. "If you deliberately defy me again, you needn't bother with Zhan Zhuang practice. Instead, I'll give you a different, more grueling exercise. You become far too insolent." Inwardly, however, the father was thinking he possesses a naturally gifted body, so these strange occurrences are possible. If you were to train diligently, he could achieve extraordinary things. But he's using that talent to defy me. How much longer must I wait? He wondered, frustration building. He let out an exasperated huff. "You are confined to your room for 3 days. Reflect on your behavior." With that, he turned and left. The boy watched his father go, thinking, only 3 days? Even if I wanted to rewrite the cryptic passage in the Huanglandu Hai, it would take me a full 5 days to complete. He then retreated to his room, leaving his brother-in-law standing there. His brother-in-law sighed wearily. Night fell. Despite being confined, the boy was exhilarated. Yes, that's the meaning. After understanding the context, it all makes sense now. Truly worthy of a former royal scholar. How could that scholar conceal the true meaning in such a way? Astonishing. He focused intently on the book in his hands. After a long while, fatigue finally set in. He stood and looked towards his bed. The moment he lay down, his thoughts drifted back to the strange dream. I wonder if I'll see it again. As he drifted into sleep, the scene reappeared before his eyes. He had anticipated this. Although it was just a dream, it felt vividly real. Whether dream or reality, whether a scene conjured by demons or my own imagination, I still want to explore that cave, the one I reached yesterday. No matter which path I choose, I can't find a way out. Why does it become more treacherous the further I go? Just like the cryptic passage in Huanglandu Hai. The passage he entered narrowed before him. The path led him toward the source of light, but ultimately he found himself back where he started, utterly disappointed. He sat down on a rocky outcrop, his head throbbing. In the silence, a sound reached his ears. He perked up, unsure of its origin. He strained to listen, wondering what would appear. The voice echoed, "He who is worthy of Huang Long." He sprang to his feet, looking around. "Is anyone there?" Hearing no further sound, he thought he might have been mistaken. Following a hunch, he entered another passage. "Is anyone in there?" There was no reply, only the whistling of the wind. Suddenly, his foot slipped on the rocky ground, and he began to fall. He was falling, plummeting down into the darkness, the cave's depths leading him into a chilling pool of water. He sank, the cold closing in, the pressure building in his chest. He couldn't breathe. The nightmare ended, and he jolted awake, heart pounding, gasping for air. It was the third time he'd had the exact same dream. He knew it was just his imagination, a figment of his mind, yet he couldn't shake the urge to explore its cryptic depths. It felt as though some dark force within the cave was pulling at his soul. If he kept wandering in circles, he'd just end up back where he started, or worse, trapped in a dead end. He held his head in his hands, a sudden thought striking him. This strange situation felt eerily similar to a passage in the Huanglong Dui. He decided to try entering the dream one more time. He couldn't explain it, but he felt certain something was hidden there, something important. He closed his eyes, drifting off to sleep. The familiar scene materialized before him. He always appeared in the same spot. The exit was blocked by that same boulder. If he kept going, he knew he'd just circle back. He wished there was another way, another path. If everything in this dream was just his imagination. He spoke the words aloud as he ventured deeper into the cavern. He seemed to pass through an invisible barrier. The world around him fractured, dissolving like a broken mirror, as if something had finally come undone. He remained remarkably calm. He had done it. He had broken free from the endless loop. "I did it," he exclaimed, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. At that moment, he woke up, still slightly disoriented, but this time he could smile. He had been startled awake by his own shout. A young man rushed in, concerned. "Young master, what happened?" Sitting up in bed, he replied, "It was just a dream." "A nightmare?" the young man asked. "I thought something terrible had happened, the way you cried out." Later, back in the study, he sat reading, lost in thought. If the cryptic verses of the Huanglong Di were abstract, the labyrinthine cave in his dream was undeniably visual. "All right," he murmured to himself, "let's try remembering those Sanskrit passages." He closed his eyes, focusing his mind, and then it came to him. He understood their meaning effortlessly, without even trying. He glanced around at the books lining the shelves. A surge of excitement coursed through him. He grabbed a book and began to read. He devoured page after page, his joy uncontainable. "Incredible! I understand everything after just one reading," he exclaimed. "Even complex mathematical calculations. I understand them all without any explanation, without even thinking." He felt like a celestial being, touched by divine knowledge. And so, he made a decision, one that would surely shock his father. He would abandon his martial arts training. He was convinced that if he became a great scholar, his father would finally stop complaining about him. "The heavens are truly on my side," he thought. "Finally, I'm free from that tedious martial arts training." The celebration was cut short by a call from outside. "Young master!" A young man hurried towards him. The young man delivered news he knew the boy wouldn't appreciate. "Young master," he began, "the master has instructed you to resume your martial arts training today." The boy's face fell. He was so disheartened, he couldn't even speak. Getting outside had been fun, but he truly loathed martial arts. Oblivious to the boy's despair, the young man continued. "The master requests you begin your training early." Resigned, the boy changed his clothes and walked towards the door. "If I had just a few more days," he muttered, "I could have explored that entire cave." He'd barely stepped outside when he was greeted by one of his brother-in-laws. "Little brother," he asked, "are you well? I'm responsible for your training today. Haven't you mastered the horse stance yet?" The boy could only mumble an affirmation. He resumed the familiar, dreaded pose. His brother-in-law's voice droned on. "Aren't you afraid the other disciples will laugh at us? Hold the horse stance for an hour," his brother-in-law instructed. "I'll practice my swordsmanship over there." With that, he drew his sword and began to train. As he held the stance, the boy watched his brother-in-law. The man seemed completely absorbed in his sword practice. He moved with a practiced grace. As the boy observed, he noticed something that made him watch even more intently. He found it peculiar. "I definitely saw a faint glow at the tip of his sword," he thought, incredulous. "That's impossible." Suddenly it clicked. "Whether it's the 4 books and 3 classics, the I Ching, or even the most complex mathematical texts, I understand him instantly. He looked down at his hands. An urge to experiment came over him. He swung his arms freely, feeling a strange energy surge through them. The energy radiated outwards, filling him with power. Slowly, his body began to lift off the ground. A thrill coursed through him. I can't believe it, he thought. I'm flying. The sensation was exhilarating. Then, as if snapping out of trance, he landed back on his feet, clutching his head in mock distress. This is going to take me further and further away from my dream of becoming a great scholar. Lost in thought, he suddenly cried out. Startled, his brother-in-law rushed over. Little brother, what's wrong? Did you get cramp? Feigning exhaustion, the boy replied, I'm just so tired. His brother-in-law scoffed, but he relented, telling the boy to rest and resume training when he felt better. With a frustrated sigh, he turned and walked away. Watching him go, the boy remained silent, unsure of what to do next. He sat down beneath a tree, lost in thought. He worried that his father would notice the change in him. The scene shifted to a courtyard by a lake. A young woman sat there, savoring a cup of hot tea. Across from her sat Yin Sheng. The woman spoke casually. What wind brings our young master here? He voiced the question that had been nagging at him. When did you reach the peak of the 9th stance of the soul sword, elder sister? His elder sister replied that she was currently attempting the 8th. Although the previous stances were relatively straightforward, the 8th posed an extreme challenge. So, how long would it take to master the ascending sword stance? Faced with this question, his elder sister had to rack her brain. Then, oh no, it would probably take you about 2 years, she answered. He was startled to hear the figure of 2 years. He brought a hand to his chin, murmuring, so, it will take me 2 years. His elder sister, in turn, wondered why he was so interested in this. She speculated, don't tell me you're planning to conquer all 9 stances of a soul sword in a single night? The question left him utterly bewildered. His elder sister furrowed her brow, awaiting his response. Could it be true? Then she declared, oh heavens, impossible. Even if you died and came back to life several times, you couldn't do it. He responded dejectedly. Even if I don't succeed, I can at least grasp the method for conquering the 9 stances. This brought a surge of joy to his elder sister. What, are you serious? He simply sighed, saying, either way, I'm feeling quite lost right now. His elder sister couldn't hide the delight on her face. Finally, you're starting to look like a true martial arts prodigy. This is a historic moment for our family. I have to tell father right away. He quickly intervened. Please keep this a secret from father for now. But she wasn't listening. She eagerly urged him towards the training hall. He watched her go, speechless. At the entrance to the training hall, the 2 siblings stepped inside. His elder sister prepared to draw her sword. He still didn't understand what she intended to do. Sword in hand, her gaze sharpened. Then, she began to execute a series of sword movements. She wielded the sword as if it were a ribbon of silk, her movements fluid and graceful. As she raised the sword high, he couldn't help but stare wide-eyed. She lowered her arm, tracing a line of exquisite beauty with the blade. Amazing, he breathed, awestruck. His elder sister's skill was even greater than he had imagined. Neither of his brothers-in-law could compare. After a time, she finished her demonstration. Her question left him floundering. Should I say I didn't see anything, or that I saw it wrong? But if I try to figure out on my own, I'll think myself bald. He decided to ask for help. With a sigh, he spoke. After all, he had come to her for this very reason. You executed 3 Fa Kim Tuk breaking sword techniques. His correct answer seemed to excite her. Which 3 were they, and where in the sequence did they appear? He replied without hesitation. The middle 3 from the first set of 5, the initial 5 from the second set, and the final 7 from the third set. His answer left her staring at him, eyes wide. She furrowed her brow in thought. I performed the first 2 techniques clearly, but the last one, I deliberately made my movements chaotic so he wouldn't recognize it. Yet he still grasped it. She praised him. You saw very clearly indeed. Well done, my little brother, Tian Yinsheng. As expected of a young master of the Heavenly Sword Clan, the sole heir of the greatest swordsman in Hebei. Don't you ever forget that. He seemed reluctant to face these words. Afterwards, they left the training hall. At the same time, 2 other young women entered. They went one way, while he went another. He felt a pang of disappointment, having to put aside deciphering the roaming yellow dragon technique. He wondered what would happen if he continued to disrupt the established forms. The 2 women headed towards their eldest sister. They entered and greeted her. We're here, one of them said. What brings Yun-chun to you? The other chimed in. He's probably just making up another excuse to skip training. I don't even need to see him to know it. She added, it must be true. That boy only comes to eldest sister for that reason. Their eldest sister cautioned them. What do you mean that boy? He's still the young master of our clan. Watch your words, she continued. Like father, like son. He's still young, that's all. One day, he'll become the king of these lands. One of the younger sisters sighed dramatically. I wish that day would come sooner. Their eldest sister smiled brightly. We won't have to wait long. 1 month later, Yin Cheng's mother spoke. My brother has sent word. Yin Cheng and his father sat at the tea table. His father replied, he's invited us to attend father-in-law's birthday celebration. I think it would be best if we set out a little early this time. Yin Cheng, brimming with excitement, asked, Mother, when are we leaving? Yin Cheng grinned uncontrollably, thinking, yes, I'll get to stay at grandfather's house for months and skip all that training. His father, noticing his son's expression, wondered, what's that brat thinking about with that goofy grin on his face? He then muttered in exasperation, that little rascal. The scene shifted to a vast, expansive beach. Yin Cheng was on a boat, traveling to his grandfather's house. He sat on a chair, stretched, and then sighed in boredom. 2 days already, and still another day to go. It's really far. Suddenly, the sound of retching came from beside him. It was a young woman, seemingly seasick. She continued to vomit uncontrollably. Yin Chun approached her, thinking she must be feeling terrible. He placed a hand on her back, as if to comfort her. Mistaking him for her father, she said weakly, I'm all right, father. But when she turned and saw Yun Cheng, she recoiled in surprise. Who are you? She demanded, before another wave of nausea overcame her. Yin Cheng advised her, the more you try to hold it back, the worse you'll feel. Try taking deep breaths. She, however, maintained her haughty demeanor. I asked you who you are. He still refused to reveal his identity. I've been seasick just like you for the past 2 days. So, try taking deep breaths. She snapped, I didn't ask you about that, and turned back towards the sea to continue vomiting. He sighed. Seems like there's no other way. He raised his index finger. He pressed a pressure point on her back. She gasped, startled by the sudden action. Afterward, she felt much more comfortable. Her voice softened as she turned and asked, How did you do that? Acupressure points. He replied, It seems Miss is also knowledgeable in martial arts. Then try circulating your chi to the Bai Wei and Shinju points. The young woman, Shi Xiaolin, still looked bewildered by his instructions. Yin Cheng encouraged her, just try it. I assure you, miss, you'll feel better. Following his advice, she let out a sigh of contentment. Aw, that's so refreshing. How did you know that, young master? Have you used this chi circulation technique while standing on the bow of a ship before? Yin Cheng chuckled. Well, you could say that. Her face brightened. This is a miraculous method. I don't feel seasick anymore. She smiled brightly. I am Shi Xiaolin, 12 years old, he replied, and I am Tian Yincheng, the same age as Mississippi. Thank you, young master. Thanks to you, I'm no longer seasick. He looked at her and advised, if you travel far in the future, try this chi circulation technique. It will help you feel better. Suddenly, she remembered something she had to do. Oh, I remember. Oh dear, how clumsy of me. I must go find my grandfather. She thanked him profusely once more and hurried off to find her grandfather. Yin Cheng watched her go, a thoughtful expression on his face. She's truly beautiful. Perhaps when she grows up, like elder sister, she'll become a breathtaking beauty. From above, on the deck of the ship, a voice called out, Young Xia, could you tell me the name of that chi circulation technique? An elderly man with snow-white hair asked. Seeing Yin Cheng's bewildered expression, he continued, I'm referring to the technique you just taught my granddaughter. Yin Cheng stammered that is, the old man prompted. Is it perhaps a secret technique that cannot be revealed? Then, the old man leaped from the upper deck. He landed lightly beside Yin Cheng. Yin Cheng immediately recognized the technique as the void treading steps. The old man had literally walked on air. He realized that this man was a true martial arts master. Actually, Yin Cheng just created that chi circulation technique yesterday. The old man looked surprised. In just 1 day, this child created a cultivation method that alleviates seasickness. It's even more effective than the Tai Xian heart method I've spent my entire life cultivating. Still slightly incredulous, the old man asked again, You truly devised it just yesterday? Yin Cheng replied, Yes. I was suffering so much from seasickness that I tried circulating my chi throughout my body. Suddenly, I felt much better, so I kept repeating and refining the process until I completely overcame the seasickness. The old man remained curious. How could you create such a chi circulation technique in just one day? Yancheng didn't know how to explain it. The old man looked at him and said, "If it's too difficult to explain, you needn't say. I can see in your eyes that you're not lying. Might I examine your pulse?" Yancheng instinctively put his hand behind his back, reluctant. The old man coaxed him. "Don't worry, I promise I won't harm you." Yancheng hesitated, then reluctantly extended his hand. "Very well, sir. You may examine my pulse." He took the boy's hand, closed his eyes, and felt. A look of astonishment crossed his face as he seemed to realize something. Indeed, it's the heavenly martial physique. So this is why the Xian 5 amulet reacted. Those with the heavenly martial physique possess an astounding aptitude and speed for learning martial arts, practically earth-shattering from a young age. Though this child's internal energy is still somewhat weak, fortunately, his chi isn't tainted. His internal strength and martial skills will surely astonish the world someday. He looked at the boy, thinking to himself, if this child had a demonic heart or harbored evil intentions, I would have had to make a cruel decision right now. 300 years ago, a heavenly martial physique also appeared in the Batu kingdom. He was a true demon. He slaughtered everyone in the martial world and became the supreme ruler of the Batu lands before he even turned 30. He plunged the martial world into chaos and war. Hundreds of sects were annihilated. Even the 9 cardinal sects were thrown into crisis, flickering like a lamp in the wind. That's why the Jiakat clan and the Namkang clan joined forces to create the Chi Gate Harmony formation to seal him away. In the end, dozens of supreme experts from the righteous sects, along with hundreds of other skilled martial artists from across the land, sacrificed their lives to take him down. He looked at the boy again. This child's spirit is pure. He may very well become a great blessing for the martial world. After a long moment of contemplation, he reached into his robe and pulled something out. "I want to give you a small gift for trusting me and for your kindness and showing that young lady how to overcome her seasickness. This is the Xian 5 amulet. It will help you maintain your health." The jade green Xian 5 amulet radiated a powerful aura. Van Ton held in his hand, surprised. "If I carry this with me, will it increase my internal energy or enhance my martial arts?" The old man laughed heartily. "Wouldn't that be wonderful? Any martial artist who heard of it would be scrambling to find it." But Van Ton looked troubled. "If my martial arts improve, I'll only encounter more trouble. Not to mention, I'll have to go into seclusion to cultivate advanced techniques. I'll end up hating this thing." The old man chuckled at the boy's naivete. "Haha, it's not that kind of magical artifact. It's simply something to help you maintain your health." Just then, a voice called out from inside the boat's cabin. "Grandpa, where have you been?" "I just saw a dragon, so I went out on deck to have a look," he replied. It turned out he was Hugh Lamb's grandfather. Hugh Lamb asked innocently, "Are there really dragons in this river, Grandpa?" He replied matter-of-factly, "Of course. Why wouldn't a river as long and wide as this have dragons?" She still seemed surprised. "But aren't dragons only found in remote mountains and valleys? Small ponds have small dragons. Large rivers have large dragons," he explained calmly. "I just saw one." Hugh Lamb gasped. "Really? You saw one? What did it look like?" He pretended to recall, then said, "It was still a young dragon, not fully grown, so its form wasn't very clear. But with the latent power it possesses, it's destined to become a dragon king, soaring through the heavens and ruling the world." Highland believed his grandfather's words completely, his face etched with regret. "If I had stayed on the deck a little longer, I would have seen it. What a pity." His grandfather chuckled. "If fate allows, you'll see it again someday." As twilight descended upon Cloud City, Yin Chung sat in his room, cultivating his chi. A radiant energy emanated from his body. Despite the vibrant energy swirling around him, a sense of weariness settled upon Yun Chao. "Just because I created the chi cultivation technique to combat seasickness, my martial arts have advanced another level," he mused, a touch of frustration in his voice. "If I keep creating and practicing like this, I'll never escape this endless cycle of martial arts. I only have one goal," he declared, a flicker of determination in his eyes: to become a scholar in the imperial court. It seemed he truly had no desire for martial arts, Every time he practiced, a melancholic shadow fell upon his face. Then he noticed something. His chi felt stronger, more vibrant than usual. His thoughts drifted to the old man. Could it be because of the old immortal who took my pulse? He wondered. He stretched out on his bed. I wish I could have a deep, dreamless sleep tonight. As soon as the wish formed in his mind, sleep claimed him. The five-colored Xian Yuan bead nestled against his chest began to glow. The next morning, they arrived in Guangdong City. Yun Cheng's parents walked the streets, marveling at how much the city had changed. The last time I visited your father was 7 years ago, his mother remarked. It's only natural that things have changed so much. A voice boomed. Well, if it isn't a renowned scholar. The words belonged to a man with a perpetually beaming smile. Recognition sparked in their eyes, and they bowed to each other. Patriarch Peng was surprised. I never expected to meet you in such a faraway place. It's nothing, Patriarch Peng replied. I had to attend Patriarch Tian's birthday celebration. If I had known we would meet here, we would have traveled together. It would have been a good opportunity for the children to broaden their horizons. He paused, a curious glint in his eyes. Tell me, is the rumor true? Yin Cheng's father frowned. What rumor? Patriarch Peng didn't hesitate. The rumor that your esteemed son wishes to become a scholar in the imperial court. Yin Cheng's father erupted. Preposterous! Are you mocking our Tianjin family? He roared, a furious aura exploding from him. The force of his energy was so intense that those nearby were thrown back 2 meters. Only Yun Cheng's mother, accustomed to her husband's outbursts, remained unmoved. She gently placed a hand on his arm. Husband, she said softly, please calm down. A young man stepped forward, placing a restraining hand on Patriarch Peng's arm. Father, he said, you cannot draw your sword first. I don't know about the Tian family, but our Peng family absolutely cannot act like this. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What's going on? Are these martial artists about to fight? Yun Cheng, standing behind his father, remained silent, his mind racing. It's all my fault, he thought, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Because of me, my parents are being humiliated. This situation is beyond repair. Yun Cheng's mother furrowed her brow, interrupting the escalating tension. Where exactly did you hear this rumor? She asked the man. He let out a derisive laugh. It's just a baseless rumor. There's no need for you all to be so concerned. One of Yin Cheng's older female relatives spoke up. Then why has the Peng family arrived so early? You're not relatives of the Guangdong Ji family like us. This left the man fuming, unable to formulate a response. He then bellowed out insolently. What I Peng Are do is none of the Tian family's business. Both of the older men, on the verge of a physical altercation, were held back by their respective families. Yin Cheng, standing behind his father, tugged at his shirt. Father, let's go. Grandfather is waiting for us. This only served to further enrage his father. You fool. Go where? Just at that tense moment, Yun Cheng's stomach rumbled loudly in protest. He offered a wry smile. The long journey has made me ravenous. I'm looking forward to the grand feast at grandfather's house. Let's go. Even a martial arts expert needs to eat to survive. Elder Peng, sensing something amiss, asked, what are you doing? Yin Shan had successfully diverted the 2 older men's attention. They both turned and walked in opposite directions. For some reason, Elder Peng chuckled. His son, relieved, breathed a sigh. Yin Cheng, needless to say, was quite pleased with himself. He had just prevented a brawl that could have escalated beyond a simple fight. Elder Peng's son remarked. His timing was impeccable. His seemingly innocent act had provided a solution to an incredibly difficult situation. Both families saved face without resorting to violence. If his innocent act was genuine, the Tian family was doomed. But if it was calculated, then in the future, Elder Peng's son stood there, staring after them, still puzzled by the entire exchange. Elder Peng called out, startling his son. What are you still standing there for? Let's go. He started to walk away, but something still bothered him. He couldn't help but glance back at Yin Shan. That young man certainly knew how to make an impression. The young man standing behind Elder Peng asked, shouldn't we be going to eat? Elder Peng, still fuming, gritted his teeth. Yes, but every time I look at that Tian family brat, I lose my appetite. The young man sighed. I've lost my appetite too. A while later, the Tian family arrived at their grandfather's house. Yun Cheng's older sister exclaimed, "This estate is like a palace." As night fell over the grounds, Yin Cheng quietly slipped outside. He began to channel his qi, striking a dramatic pose and declaring, "Late night training to banish this excess fat. Nonsense. I need to stroll and meditate to nourish my soul." He suddenly stopped, his eyes fixed on something ahead. Before him was a seal. This he couldn't ignore, as expected of the Fist King's family. If the true essence is activated, all the stones in this garden will align. Now, this is getting interesting. His grandfather approached from behind, asking, "What are you muttering to yourself about all alone here?" Yin Cheng jumped, startled by his grandfather's presence. He stammered, "When did you get here?" His grandfather raised an eyebrow. "What? Were you talking about me behind my back?" Yin Cheng quickly explained, "Of course not. I was just admiring this place." His grandfather still seemed puzzled. "What is there to admire about this place?" Yin Cheng stretched out his arms, his gaze sweeping over the surroundings. "Everything. Not just the buildings, but even every single pebble here holds the secrets of martial arts." His grandfather's eyes widened at these words. He was astonished that Yin Cheng knew this. "Can you explain to me what kind of secrets these are?" he asked. Yin Cheng looked at a stone in front of him and shared his knowledge. "For example, if I were to step on that stone and unleash my martial arts, the power of my fist would double." His grandfather fell into deep thought. "Everything here is arranged according to the secrets of the Iron Foot clan's martial arts. There's a metal plate placed under that stone. I can't believe this boy has seen for the nature of things here. When striking, the stone helps the lower body achieve balance, allowing the martial artist to focus on strengthening the power of the blow. The stones are arranged in a specific order, so the martial artist can seamlessly execute their attacks and defeat their opponent in the blink of an eye. Especially for top-tier experts, these stones can be the deciding factor in a close match." He looked at Yin Cheng appraisingly. As expected, even a mulberry leaf can become silk with time. This boy truly is a genius. Even I couldn't have foreseen his potential. And he asked, "Do you see any weaknesses in this arrangement?" Yin Cheng was taken aback by the question. "How could I possibly know that? I only just discovered this myself." Though he smiled outwardly, his grandfather was stunned. He grasped the secret of this arrangement with just a glance. This ability to perceive the true nature of things is truly remarkable. If this boy dedicates himself to becoming a martial artist, he will surely command the respect of the world. The next morning, on the martial arts stage, a captivating sword dance was being performed. Every banquet required such visually stunning martial arts displays. But Yin Cheng was focused solely on the food, eating with gusto. This is what a banquet should be like. Lively and exciting. His older sister, sitting beside him, admonished, "Don't be so boisterous. We're not here as guests to simply enjoy ourselves. You must conduct yourself as a host of this banquet, paying attention to everything until it concludes." Ignoring his sister's lecture, Yin Cheng continued to eat without pause. Yes, sister, you're absolutely right. The techniques those young women are displaying on stage are truly beautiful. Their grandfather watched the movements intently, then exclaimed with delight, "Haha, this martial arts dance is magnificent. It makes me feel 10 years younger." As expected, the Fist King's entertainment is top-notch. Magnificent. These three individuals were, in turn, the Shaolin Abbot, Grandmaster Yuan Wu, the Taoist Master Gu Xianjinren, and Elder Zhu Qingdu. They had all come to offer their congratulations on the Fist King's grand birthday celebration. Yin Cheng's grandfather clasped his hands in response. "Many thanks to all of you for traveling such a great distance to celebrate with me. I hope you will forgive any shortcomings of our household and enjoy the festivities." An internal voice urged him, "We should skip these tedious pleasantries. Respond decisively like a Fist King." Somewhere in the crowd, a man named Lao Peng ground his teeth. Calling those dancers mediocre performance fist dancing is a disgrace. A true martial artist should be ashamed. Yin Cheng's mother bristled. "Who are you?" His father, too, was incensed by the provocation. The Fist King, Yin Cheng's grandfather, remained unperturbed. Lao Peng's voice boomed, ensuring all could hear. At the very least, a performance of true fist dancing or a martial arts demonstration between men would be more fitting for the renowned Fist King. Yin Cheng's mother fumed. Of all the nerve, disrupting someone's celebration. The Fist King let out a cold snort. Perhaps I haven't been thoughtful enough. I hear the eldest son of the Peng family head has been making rapid progress in his martial arts training recently, and my son-in-law's youngest has also achieved quite a bit. I believe a friendly match between these two promising young talents would liven up the festivities. Yin Cheng, mid-bite, nearly choked on his food, lightheaded at the suggestion. Both his parents were aghast. Yin Cheng and his sister vehemently protested. "Grandfather, are you mad? No, this won't do." But the Fist King found the idea immensely entertaining. What does the Peng family head think? Lao Peng, thrilled, practically roared. "Are you serious? That would be spectacular. Let's begin at once." Yun Cheng was utterly speechless. His father pleaded with his father-in-law. "What are you doing?" Yun Cheng's training isn't complete. He hasn't even mastered basic swordsmanship, let alone the Tian family's shifting shadow sword style. Peng Rongmun, on the other hand, has already mastered the highest techniques of the Peng family, the five-tiger severing blade. While his mastery may not be complete, it's still an incredibly powerful blade style. A martial arts match? What are you planning? The elders murmured amongst themselves in astonishment. Has the renowned Fist King's judgment declined with age? This match is absurd. How sad. Time is truly cruel. The Fist King, seated at the head table, knew this moment was inevitable. He wanted to witness it firsthand. Yin Cheng resigned himself to his fate with a sigh. Romlin smirked, brimming with confidence. The Peng family of Hebei has represented the region's martial arts for generations. The biggest obstacles preventing them from claiming the title of #1 in the martial world have always been the Tian Sword Clan and the Fist King's wife's family, the Jin clan. The two young men faced each other and bowed. Yin Cheng thought to himself, the martial world is truly baffling. Must everything be settled with fists? Wouldn't it be better to read the royal books and then discuss them? Yin Cheng blurted out, "Whoa, amazing," when he saw the hulking blade the man held in his hand. "Incredible, amazing." He rushed over, poking and prodding the man's physique, showering him with praise. "How do you train to get a body like this? Look at these arms, solid as steel. And his knuckles, whoa, they even bend backward." After this effusive greeting, Yin Cheng placed a hand thoughtfully on his chin and declared in a pompous tone, "It's said that muscle mass is directly proportional to stupidity." The man gritted his teeth, thinking the slow, tedious mannerisms of these bookworms. Yin Cheng continued his incessant chatter. Compared to outward appearance, inner substance is what truly matters. As Confucius said in the Analects, the more Yin Cheng pontificated, the more the man's jaw clenched in fury. "You bastard, you're dead meat today." He seethed inwardly, his anger escalating with every word. "You're dead. So, he wants to use me to get rid of this useless whelp from the Heavenly Sword sect." Yin Cheng mused, a sly grin spreading across his face as he held up his own diminutive sword. Well, not so fast. We'll see who's useless when this is over." The man looked surprised. "What, a duel? You think you're a match for me?" He brandished his massive blade. "How dare you insult me like that?" Yin Cheng looked bewildered, clutching his small sword. Hey, you're supposed to say begin before attacking. That's basic martial arts etiquette. Don't you know that? Ignoring Yun Cheng's protests, the man swung his sword downwards. Yin Cheng parried the blow with his own small blade. The man, enraged, put all his strength into his attacks. "Let's see how long your witty words can save you." Yun Cheng grimaced, straining to block the enormous weapon. The man's blade flashed up and down like a fan in a furious dance. The contrast between their physiques was stark. The man continued to hack away at Yin Cheng, venting his frustration. Yin Cheng, his face contorted with effort, narrowly dodged another blow. Despite the furious onslaught, the man's anger remained unabated. He couldn't understand how Yun Cheng continued to evade his powerful attacks. Yin Cheng stumbled, momentarily losing his footing. The man smirked, seeing his opportunity. He brought his blade down in a decisive strike. The relentless attacks sent sprays of blood arcing through the air. Yin Cheng's face was etched with worry as he instinctively dodged. Peng Rongmun slammed his sword into the arena floor after landing a blow on his opponent. Yin Cheng, thrown off balance, tumbled to the ground. Peng Rongmun sneered, triumphant and disdainful. In the stands, Yin Cheng's parents cried out in alarm, their faces etched with fear. Peng Rongmun's successful strike silenced the cheering crowd, replaced by a stunned silence. Yun Cheng sat on the ground, clutching his bleeding wound, his face pale with shock. He stared up at Peng Rongmun, his body trembling, stunned by the speed and ferocity of the attack. His hand, covered in blood, shook uncontrollably. Yun Cheng's face was a mask of panicked worry. Just a little deeper, he thought, his heart pounding, it would have pierced right through, leaving my ribs exposed. Gritting his teeth, he steadied his trembling hand on the hilt of the sword. I can't lose to Peng Zhongmu and his ridiculous brown blade, with his half-baked provocation. His legs still shaking, Yun Cheng slowly rose, his expression strained. Better to use the swordplay I've mastered since childhood, he decided. The image of his grandfather flashed in his mind. White hair, long beard, and eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 battles. The Jianghu is a world of its own. If you want to be a hero, you must shatter its current state. Yun Cheng's face hardened as he glared at his opponent. Meanwhile, Peng Zhongmu and his eldest son sat at table, the younger son sighing and shaking his head. "So disappointing," the younger son muttered. Old man Peng chuckled, lifting his water bowl. "Ah, he was never a match for him." The elder son, gripping his large, heavy blade, wore a look of smug confidence. "Look, father," he thought, his eyes glinting fiercely, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips. "See my victory." He reveled in the attention of the numerous onlookers. He stared down Yun Cheng, poised to strike. Across from him, Yun Cheng trembled, a small sound escaping his lips. He seemed wary, yet also deeply apprehensive. His sword began to glow with a strange light as he slowly raised it, taking a deep breath to compose himself. With a roar, Yun Cheng lunged forward, his sword now enveloped in swirling green energy, aimed directly at his opponent. Immortal's Path, first stance. Heart piercer. The elder Peng's son's eyes widened in surprise at the sudden attack. Yun Cheng pressed his assault. Second stance. Earth Splitter. A flurry of horizontal and vertical slashes followed, Yun Cheng's voice ringing out with each strike. Downward slash like Mount Tai, crushing its foes. Third stance, Heaven Cleaver. He paused, panting, muttering to himself. Thrust, parry, cut, the fundamentals of all swordplay. He swung his sword wide, green energy swirling around him as he declared. From this moment, the younger Peng's son stared blankly, utterly bewildered by Yun Cheng's display. Yun Cheng continued his flourish of movements, his voice echoing. "I will use the three-talent swordsmanship to fight you." The elder Peng's son stood frozen, stammering, What in the world?" Yun Cheng, with a playful flourish of his sword, taunted, Hey, feeling mocked. The elder son roared in fury. "Three-talent swordsmanship? You dare challenge the Peng family's ascending blade, the iron blood-crimson star blade, with such a childish technique?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Three talents swordsmanship? That's barely beginner level," someone whispered. "It's the swordplay of third-rate wanderers and beggars," another added. Confusion reigned. Why would someone from the Heavenly Sword family use such a basic technique? Yun Cheng's parents watched in stunned silence, his father bewildered. "Why isn't he using our family's ascending blade?" His mother, tears streaming down her face, whispered in despair. "My son, oh my son," his older sister yelled. "That idiot's being stubborn again." Old man Peng roared in frustration. "Damn it, he dares to underestimate the invincible blade technique of the Peng family." Nearby, the second son also gaped in disbelief. Has Tianjian lost his mind? Up in the stands, Yun Cheng continued his relentless practice swings, slicing through the air. "The fundamentals of martial arts are crucial," he murmured, his hand moving rhythmically. "The foundation of all swordsmanship is to cut, parry, and thrust." Yun Cheng, with an air of nonchalant confidence, stood with one hand on his hip, the other gripping the hilt of his sword, pointing it towards the Peng family's eldest son. "Experts prefer simplicity," he continued, his voice carrying across the arena. "Your blade techniques are far too flashy." Peng Rongmu, the eldest son, darkened at Yun Cheng's words. His body trembled with barely suppressed rage as he gripped his imposing blade and lunged towards Yun Cheng, roaring, "You milk drinker, how dare you lecture me?" With his blade pointed straight ahead, Peng Rongmu charged with terrifying speed, his face contorted in fury, veins bulging in his neck. Insolent, he bellowed. Yun Cheng calmly raised his smaller sword in front of him, his expression unreadable. Peng Rongmu thrust his blade directly at Yun Cheng, teeth gritted, his foot slamming into the ground. Yun Cheng intercepted the incoming attack with his smaller sword, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. Sparks flew as the two blades met. Yun Cheng's sword slid along Peng Rongmu's blade, sending a shower of sparks into the air. With a set jaw and unwavering gaze, he swiftly countered. Peng Rongmu, surprised by the smooth deflection and the immediate counterattack, exclaimed, "What?" Their weapons clashed again with a resounding clang, sending both men stumbling backward. Yun Cheng, his grip tight on his sword, regained his footing, his eyes locked on his opponent. "I too," he began, his voice laced with anticipation. Yun Cheng lunged forward, shouting, "We'll strike." Peng Rongmu, a sneer twisting his lips, easily dodged the attack. With a grunt of exertion, Peng Rongmu swiftly repositioned his blade and thrust it forward, his face a mask of anger. The blade shot towards Yun Cheng like an arrow. Yun Cheng, anticipating the attack, angled his sword defensively. He narrowly avoided the thrust by quickly jerking his head to the left. Peng Rongmu's attack shifted direction, forcing Yun Cheng to dodge to the right. "Missed!" Yun Cheng taunted, a hint of disdain in his voice. "You're faster than me, aren't you?" Peng Rongmu, with a smug grin, swiftly raised his blade and changed his stance. "Aha," he laughed. His blade, which had been aimed high, now swept horizontally. Yun Cheng, caught off guard, cried out in pain as the attack connected. He stumbled, losing his balance, and began to fall backward, his body quickly soaked with blood after the attack. Yun Cheng's surprise was evident. He stumbled backward. Peng Deng, the second son of the Peng family, seized the opportunity, immediately raising his sword high to gather momentum. His eyes darkened with anger as he unleashed a flurry of blows, his speed so unexpected that Yun Cheng could barely react. Yun Cheng stammered, Peng Deng, his face a mask of fury, his eyes blazing, brought his attack down with brutal force. "You coward," he roared. Yun Cheng desperately parried the blow with his slender sword, the impact jarring his arm. The delicate blade met a relentless barrage of attacks. Yun Cheng, his face strained, grunted with each difficult parry. Peng Deng, wielding his massive broadsword, unleashed a whirlwind of powerful strikes. Yet, Yun Cheng continued to deflect the onslaught with his seemingly fragile weapon. Yun Cheng's father watched from below, silent and anxious, observing the duel. Peng Deng shifted his stance, gripping his peerless broadsword tightly. "Blood-draining crimson blade art," he bellowed, a surge of white energy radiating from his body. He lunged forward with blinding speed, his form splitting into two shimmering afterimages. "Crimson blade flash," he cried. The attack was too swift for the eye to follow, a blur of motion aimed directly at Yun Cheng. The blow struck home. Yun Cheng's eyes rolled back in his head. He gasped, "Ugh," and his body flew backward. Peng Deng, his face a mask of smug confidence, sailed past, leaving Yun Cheng crumpled on the ground. Peng Deng, triumphant, raised his broadsword high to a chorus of cheers. A self-satisfied smirk spread across his face. "I look pretty impressive," he thought. "I look pretty impressive," he thought again. Below, the crowd was stunned into silence. "It's over already?" someone murmured. Another man spoke up. It was like a one-sided fight. A voice filled with admiration added, "They say the best in Nirim are masters of ferocious blade arts. Peng Zhan's blade technique is truly magnificent." The accolades continued to pour in. Then, from behind, Yun Cheng slowly rose to his feet. "So, predictably brutish," he said, his voice surprisingly strong. Peng Deng spun around, shocked and bewildered. Yun Cheng brought his hands up to his shoulders. "So many unnecessary movements," he said with a hint of disdain. Peng Deng stood frozen, his back to Yun Cheng, his face darkening with rage. Yun Cheng spread his arms wide. "Look, I prepared such expensive clothes for this banquet, and now I look like a beggar." His blue robes were torn and tattered from the fight, yet his body seemed completely unharmed. The crowd gasped, murmuring in astonishment. Did nothing happen to him? It looks like his robe is just torn. Hearing this, he glanced back, stiffening in apparent surprise. What's the meaning of this? He thought. Below the platform, the entire audience was stunned, buzzing with excited chatter. What's going on? One person asked. Did he really just block the 3 sword stances? Another exclaimed. Then there was no need to pay such a steep price to learn that ultimate technique. Even the 3 judges were dumbfounded. One questioned, how is this even possible? Another declared, this is a true challenge to martial arts. About Buddha, he remained silent, his face darkening, his voice trembling as he looked towards Yun Chang. That brat, is he mocking me? He thought furiously. Suddenly, rage consumed him. Veins bulged beneath his skin, crackling with blue lightning. Very well, he seethed inwardly. If that's how it is, I'll make sure you become a fool. Yun Cheng's mother pleaded, her face etched with worry. Father, please stop this. Yun Cheng's mother continued to beg. Please sound the drum. His blocking it before was just luck. If this goes on, Yun Cheng will be gravely injured. Yun Cheng's grandfather responded calmly. The match isn't over yet. His mother retorted sharply. Is this still a match? This is attempted murder. He's using the guise of a match to kill Yun Cheng. Yun Cheng's grandfather remained unperturbed. Don't worry too much. That boy is a formidable expert now. Yun Cheng's mother, surprised by his calm demeanor, asked, What do you mean? She continued to look at her father, waiting for him to elaborate. In terms of understanding the 3 sword stances, he continued, he's a true master. Yun Cheng's mother stammered, unable to fully comprehend. Meanwhile, her father sat with a darkened expression, thinking to himself, how long do you intend to remain idle within your shell? If you don't break free from a heavenly martial seal yourself, someone else will have to destroy it for you. On the platform, Yun Cheng gripped his sword, poised for battle. Across from him, the eldest son of the Peng family held his saber tightly, bellowing, no one bathes twice in the same river. You won't be so lucky again. His eyes blazed with golden light, sparks of electricity dancing around him. Let's see, he challenged, a sneer twisting his lips. He raised his saber, his eyes alight with anticipation. Suddenly, he paused, an image of Yun Cheng flashing through his mind. A voice echoed within him, demanding, Wake up, are you content to live so recklessly in that place? He slowly lowered his saber, exhaling a long, shaky breath. The eldest son and the Peng patriarch sat together, conversing. My youngest brother is too excited today. I told him to calm down, the eldest son said. The patriarch sighed, responding, Indeed, through this official match, the only son of the Heavenly Sword clan could become a cripple. A gleeful expression spread across his face. Excellent, he continued, pouring himself a cup of wine. It happened because he underestimated his opponent. Therefore, neither the Heavenly Sword clan nor the Fist King can object. He raised the cup to his lips, taking a long sip. This wine is particularly fragrant today, he remarked with satisfaction. On the platform, Yin Xing spun his sword expertly, his voice ringing out. You dare use the 3 sword stances to mock me? Do you have such contempt for the Peng family? He slammed his sword down onto the platform, the impact echoing through the arena. Gripping the hilt tightly, he roared, Now it's your turn to be mocked. His broadsword scraped against the arena floor, sending sparks flying. Gripping the hilt tightly, he dragged the blade towards Yun Cheng, his words a venomous hiss. I'll show you humiliation worse than death. His pace quickened, a blur of motion rushing towards his opponent. Yun Cheng, his face a mask of shock, stood frozen. The broadsword swung in a swift horizontal arc, catching him off guard. With a sharp, defiant glare, Yin Cheng parried the blow with his smaller sword. The impact reverberated through his arms. He gritted his teeth, a strained grunt escaping his lips. From above, the eldest son of the Peng family, his hands clenched around the hilt of his broadsword, brought it down towards where Yin Cheng stood. The attack was relentless. He roared, his voice echoing through the arena. Yun Cheng, not to be outdone, met the blow with his smaller blade, the force of the impact sending him stumbling back. Yun Cheng retreated, dodging the flurry of attacks. His opponent's face was contorted in a grimace, teeth grinding together in frustration. He lunged forward again, broadsword flashing. Peng Dung Moon unleashed another powerful attack, but Yin Cheng met it head-on, the screech of metal against metal ringing through the air. Blocking the blow, Yun Cheng spat. Aren't you ashamed to use a sparring match to attempt murder? Across from him, Peng Dongmoon's face darkened with rage. You've mocked the Peng family's blade techniques twice with your pathetic cat-scratching swordplay. This murderous intent is the price you pay. The attacks continued, a relentless barrage of steel. Yun Chung parried each blow, the clang of their weapons echoing through the arena. His limbs trembled with the strain, a strangled cry escaping his lips. Suddenly, Yin Chung fell silent, his gaze dropping to the ground. One of his legs buckled beneath him. Peng Dongmoon paused, momentarily confused by Yun Cheng's sudden weakness. Then, a sneer spread across his face. "Oh, so that's your plan, is it?" He brought his broadsword down towards the kneeling Yun Cheng, who raised his sword in a desperate attempt to block the blow. Sweat beaded on Yun Cheng's forehead as he braced himself for the impact, a desperate thought echoing in his mind. Damn it! A chilling sense of deja vu washed over him as his other leg gave way, sending him crashing to the arena floor. He stammered, "You?" Peng Dongmoon, gripping his broadsword, raised it high above his head. "Yes, beg for mercy." Yun Cheng's eyes were wide with strain as he struggled to deflect the blow. "Kneel! Show some respect," Peng Dongmoon roared, bringing his broadsword down with brutal force. The broadsword slammed down beside Yun Cheng's smaller blade, the grinding of metal against metal deafening. Both strained against the other, grunts of exertion ripping from their throats. A smug grin spread across Peng Dongmoon's face. "Just kneel and bow before your betters," he taunted. "You can't possibly hope to resist, boy." Below him, Yun Cheng, his face slick with sweat, struggled to hold his ground. Damn it! Still kneeling, Yun Cheng strained against the weight of the broadsword, his muscles screaming in protest. Why is he so strong? He gritted his teeth, pushing back with all his might. A worried expression twisted Yun Cheng's face, his lips forming the words, "I'd rather die." He told himself, even if he were to die under this blade, he would not kneel. His opponent, face contorted in a brutal sneer, roared, "Ha ha, you would rather die than submit to me." He stood tall, leaning back, his arm raised high with a gleaming blade. "Very well, then die with your pathetic pride." Yun Cheng swiftly raised his own sword, blocking the descending blow. The other man pressed his attack, his blade a relentless storm of steel. Suddenly, a girl with long brown hair appeared amidst the crowd, and Yun Cheng's mind snapped into focus. He recognized her. 5 realities superimposed themselves over the scene. From the platform, he looked down at the spectators, as if seeing a familiar figure. "It's her," he thought, certainty hardening in his mind. "It's Hyunji." Yin Chung froze, lost in thought. Arcs of green lightning crackled around him. In his pupils, Hyunji's image reflected, surrounded by the intensifying emerald glow. A small gem, radiating power, appeared on his left breast. Yin Chung silently pleaded, "Just once." He looked at the glowing stone, its energy surging. "Just this once." Yun Chung dropped to one knee, then lunged, his sword aimed directly at the second son of the Peng family, who was still bringing down his own blade. With a determined expression, Yun Chung thrust his sword forward, the green energy swirling around it. The other young man's face tightened, a flicker of tension replacing his earlier confidence. Yun Cheng's gaze was fixed, his focus absolute. The crowd below watched in stunned silence. Even Yun Cheng's parents were aghast at the sudden turn of events. The eldest Peng's son and his father, Lord Peng, were equally shocked. Lord Peng, so startled he spat out his wine, while his younger son gasped. "What in the world?" At the height of the duel, a cry of "Stop!" rang out. Yun Cheng's sword tip was lodged in his opponent's side, both their hands still gripping their weapons high in the air. Slowly lowering his blade, the Peng's son stared in bewildered disbelief. What is this?" he stammered. The sword point rested lightly against his flesh. Sweat streamed down Yun Cheng's face, but he wore a triumphant grin. Below, his grandfather clapped his hands, a pleased smile on his face. Yun Cheng's parents beamed with joy. His mother clapped her hands excitedly. "Well done, my son," she cried. Beside her, his father chuckled with pride. The crowd erupted in cheers, some astonished by the outcome of the duel. The crowd roared its approval. John Al-sung, the crippled genius, has defeated the great blade, Morrow. A chorus of praise filled the air. Extraordinary, a truly rare duel. Magnificent. Morrow's face darkened, speechless. The sword slid from the wound near his stomach. Yin Chung, grasping his own blade, sighed. "You're lucky," he said, his face darkening with anger. The other man, seemingly furious, veins bulging, stammered. A lucky? How? Yin Chum replied calmly. Well, about that technique, luck is part of skill, you know. A rapid drum roll resounded, signaling the end of the match. Yin Sheng turned as the judge announced, Tianjin Clan's Tian Yunsheng is victorious. From his stands, the crowd roared Yin Cheng's name. He waved, a bewildered expression on his face. Is something wrong? He mumbled. Yin Cheng sighed wearily, tears welling in his eyes. I don't want to spend my life fighting and dueling like this, he thought miserably, squeezing his eyes shut in the arena's holding area. Becoming a respected scholar would be so much better than being some ignorant warrior. From below, the older Palm brother flew up and kicked his younger brother to the ground. You idiot! How dare you embarrass me in front of thousands of warriors? He raged. The younger brother sprawled on the ground, muttered, ow. Yin Cheng watched the scene unfold, utterly perplexed. The Palm brother's father, mortified, stormed away. Don't you ever look me in the eye again, he snarled. The father's jaw clenched so tightly, he thought his teeth might shatter. A frustrated growl rumbled in his throat. Glancing back at his eldest son, he hissed, this humiliation will not stand. The older brother, his face pale with fear, whispered, yes, father. Lord Peng's face was a mask of cold fury. I want this dealt with. Swiftly, he commanded. The three men quickly left the stands. As they departed, they passed an old man with a long white beard and flowing white hair, accompanied by Xiaolin. The old man placed a hand on Xiaolin's shoulder. Don't wait any longer. Let's go, he said gently. Xiaolin turned. Just a little longer, Grandpa, she pleaded. The old man chuckled softly. Stubborn, aren't you? She pouted playfully. The old man mused to himself. Ever since he was a child, that boy has endured incredibly rigorous martial arts training. His upbringing, coupled with his naturally resolute character, has given him a maturity beyond his years. He rarely shows his emotions or expresses enthusiasm for anything. Xiaolin's cheeks puffed out slightly. Grandpa, are you even listening to me? She whined. Xiaolin's face clouded with sadness. She pictured Yin Cheng battling, the vine-thatch bow gemstone glowing at his chest. So the five realities have finally been twisted like that, she thought. The old man, watching his granddaughter, murmured, already acting like an adult, are you? Xiaolin walked ahead, dejected. The old man continued to observe her, thinking, such a naive child, yet so rational. Xiaolin sighed softly. The old man closed his eyes thoughtfully. That boy's a good heart, he mused. The image of Yin Cheng surfaced in the old man's mind. He thought, he may seem naive and foolish on the outside, but inside, he truly is a divinely appointed emperor, skilled in both literary and martial arts. The image of Yun Cheng's fight with the young master of the Peng family also flashed before him, and the old man murmured to himself, the fight with the young master of the great saber family made it abundantly clear. What else is there? The old man continued, urging his granddaughter from behind. That boy can't hear your voice. Let's go. Hugh Lam turned back, her eyes filled with sadness, her lips trembling as words failed her. At the end, when my chi manifested, he clearly heard me. Hugh Lam brought a hand to her chin, lost in thought. It's true. 5 years of clamor. How could he possibly hear my voice? The distance is just too great. She continued to ponder. Even if he heard, what guarantee is there that he would come to see me? Lost in her own thoughts, she suddenly covered her face with her hands, embarrassed. I'm going crazy. She wore a bewildered and embarrassed expression, stammering, what am I even doing here? From afar, the old man's hand trembled as he raised it, his face etched with worry and confusion. Granddaughter, come with Grandpa. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed from behind him. Seasickness. Hugh Lam jumped at the sound, her eyes darting towards the source. From the crowd, the figure of Yin Cheng came running towards the old man and her. Flustered, Hugh Lam turned towards Yin Cheng, murmuring, oh. Yin Cheng arrived, panting and complaining wearily, huff, huff. Oh, I'm so tired. Hugh Lam stared, flustered, stammering as she looked at him. Yin Cheng looked up at her, still catching his breath. You right? Hearing his question, she looked dumbfounded, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. Huh? What do you mean? She closed her eyes briefly, taking a breath before softly saying, did you hear my singing? Yin Cheng's expression suggested he had misunderstood her. He said softly, no, not that. A mint, you're actually this pretty? Hugh Lamb's eyes widened in surprise at his words. Her eyes wide with surprise. Yin Chung continued, the first time I met you on the boat, you were so seasick and pale I hardly noticed. But now that you're better, you look like a different person. Like night and day, really. Hugh Lamb listened to his assessment, her hair a mess, her face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and bewilderment. She clenched her fists in anger, exclaiming, how dare you say that? From afar, the old man, seeing his granddaughter scolding Yun Chang, laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, I almost missed the match. It's good to see you again. Yin Chang abruptly turned to the old man, his eyes closing briefly in a gesture of respect. Luckily, I wasn't late. At first, I thought it was an illusion, so I ran here to confirm. The old man replied calmly, oh, is that so? The old man asked. Amidst the roaring crowd, you could hear Hugh Lamb's voice. Hugh Lamb, standing behind them, fumed, steam practically rising from her head. She grumbled under her breath, ugh. Yin Chung scratched his head sheepishly. It was strange. I can't believe I heard that yell. Suddenly, Hugh Lamb erupted from behind them, her face furious, steam practically billowing from her ears, her fists clenched, her voice booming so loudly that it startled both the old man and Yun Chang. That wasn't a yell for you. She pointed accusingly at Yin Chang. Night and day, huh? You dare say that? Do you even remember my name? I told you on the boat. Yin Chung stammered, flustered and bewildered. The old man beside him, equally taken aback, could only manage a strained, oh. Yin Chang appeared flustered and bewildered, his hands reaching out towards her as if to soothe her, while his mouth stammered. Oh, of course I remember. Hugh Lamb. Hugh Lamb. Hearing her name, Hugh Lamb's expression softened, a shy blush rising to her cheeks as she breathed. Oh. Her expression shifted again upon hearing him say her name. So you do remember? She mumbled, a hint of embarrassment in her voice. Yin Chung froze, unsure what to say. She turned to him, her face etched with concern. Are you feeling all right? Yin Chung thumped his chest, a confident grin spreading across his face. Of course. I'm a man, after all. They stood facing each other, chatting and laughing. An old man watched them intently from a distance. Back then, I felt so helpless and tired, he murmured to himself. But now I'm all right. Now I have you, Hugh Lamb. Hugh Lamb covered her mouth with her hand, giggling softly. I know. Their conversation continued. But how did you come up with that sword technique at the last minute? Yin Chung asked. It seemed like he knew a lot about reality. She paused, considering her words. Well, about that, the old man remained like a silent observer as Yin Chung and Hugh Lamb continued their light-hearted banter. Oh, I see. Haha. I understand, the old man chuckled, turning away. I'm being a nuisance. I should leave them to talk. Hugh Lamb clasped her hands together excitedly. But how did you think of fighting young Master Greatsword with those 3 sword techniques? Could you really defeat Tang Lin that way? Yin Chung stammered. He waved his hand dismissively. My head hurts. If you keep asking me questions like that, I won't be able to answer. Hugh Lamb covered her mouth, sticking out her tongue playfully. But you're from a heavenly martial lineage. How can your head hurt? Maybe you trained too hard this morning. They walked on, laughing and joking. Behind them, the old man followed silently, his hands clasped behind his back. To see young people so happy, he sighed contentedly. Hugh Lamb's face radiated joy, a shy blush coloring her cheeks. The old man continued to chide himself. An old man like me should just leave. It's probably for the best. Yun Chang's face glowed in the golden sunlight, his expression gentle, a shy smile playing on his lips. They walked side by side, their voices mingling. The era of the 9 great sects and a righteous sex is over, Yun Chang declared. Now is the time for the heavenly martial lineage to rise. Walking beneath the bright sun, which illuminated Hugh Lamb's radiant face, Yin Chung thought to himself, my dream of dominance, it's finally coming true. They paused beneath a tree, continuing their conversation in a relaxed manner. Suddenly, the old man approached, clearing his throat to interrupt their conversation. We've met who we needed to meet, he announced. Shall we be going now? Hugh Lamb turned to him, a look of contentment on her face. Yes, sir. The old man and Hugh Lamb turned to leave. Yun Chen quickly raised his hand in farewell. Have a good trip. Hugh Lamb turned back, calling out, You too. She waved with both hands, a shy smile on her face. And see you again, Yin Chung murmured. Is that even possible? You're going so far away. She raised a hand to her eyes, her smile widening. Of course, if we've met twice, we'll definitely meet a 3rd time. As the distance between them grew, Yin Chung shouted, When you have time, Try practicing the horse stance I showed you. Even if it's tiring, you have to try it. The old man chuckled as they walked away. That boy is quite energetic. Hugh Lamb smiled to herself, whispering, silly. After bidding farewell to the girl and the old man, Yin Cheng seemed incredibly happy. Suddenly, he flinched, trembling, a look of bewilderment on his face as he let out a gasp. Yin Cheng's face was a mask of weary dejection. He mumbled something unintelligible, a low groan lost in the air. It was so peaceful, resting like that. He thought, biting his lip, after I beat that pig Klangonu this time, my father's going to realize I have some hidden potential. The training's going to be even more brutal when I get back to the estate. Just you wait. His lip trembled. I don't want that. He looked towards the estate, sighing wearily. Does life have to be this way? Just let me study in peace. Is that too much to ask? From within the estate, his mother's voice rang out, oblivious to his inner turmoil. Oh, my brilliant son, you are the future, the hope of our family, the next heavenly sword master. Where have you been, child? You're so late. The scene shifts to a place known as the Great Blade River of the North. For generations, the Great Blade clan had cultivated immense physical strength and prided themselves on their indomitable spirit, a stark contrast to Yun Cheng's scholarly inclinations. All around, countless members of the clan were immersed in rigorous training. A legend circulated among them. It spoke of Pom Zondo, the previous Grand Master of the Zongdo sect, who wielded a colossal blade known as the Reaching Horse Blade and dominated the northern river. A man bearing an enormous blade, his gaze cold and impassive, materialized in the narrative. It was said that to attain ultimate mastery of the esoteric Great Blade technique, the Aohui Shimen, Hong Zondo practiced the Qiandu technique but fell victim to the treading fire into madness state. Unable to overcome the inner demons unleashed by this technique, Peng Zondo became a crippled husk, a casualty of the treading fire into madness. His son, Peng Yinsen, inherited the mantle of leadership of the Great Blade River of the North, but remained powerless to free his father from his tormented state. At this moment, Peng Junmun knelt, enduring his father's furious tirade. His older brother stood by, arms crossed, silently observing, his face a mask of barely contained anger. Old Peng, standing before a roaring bonfire, bellowed, quickly, his voice laced with regret. He lamented, if only the previous Grand Master, Pom Zondo, hadn't succumbed to the treading fire into madness. If only he had mastered the Aohui Shimen, he could have been a savior of the Great Blade River of the North, and we could have crushed those Miram dogs. His face contorted with rage, he turned on his youngest son. And yet, you were defeated by that heavenly sword brat with just 3 sword strokes. You let those Miram warriors laugh in our faces. Peng Junmun hung his head, his voice trembling. I have failed you, father. Old Peng lunged forward, seizing his son by the collar and lifting him bodily into the air. He roared, don't call me father. How can we ever wash away this shame? The older brother stepped forward, as if to intervene. Old Peng backhanded him across the face, his voice a thunderous bellow. How could you let this happen? You'd have been more believable claiming you were bitten by ants. Anything would be better than this. His younger brother, trembling beside him, pleaded, Father, please calm yourself. Peng Junmun, his face pale with fear, dared not look up. He stammered, I won't let it happen again. His father, towering over him, blared down. This time, I will spare you. Lock yourself away and train. Do you hear me? Old Peng turned and stalked away, then glanced back over his shoulder. Hone your skills. Push yourself to the limit. Ensure you can triumph in any battle. After he left the room, the older brother muttered, we are not the future of the Peng clan. We are merely tools for them to fulfill their centuries-old ambitions. Standing there, trembling, Peng Junmun replayed his humiliation in his mind. I can't accept this, he thought, his body shaking with barely suppressed fury. His face hardened, his teeth clenched. Just you wait, you bookworm, heavenly sword brat. I will have my revenge. A wooden house peeked from behind a mountain range. A man stood, imposing, as if preparing for something. He stared intently at the saber before him, lost in thought, considering the advantages of his sword, its double-edged blade, so well suited for thrusting. His gaze dropped back to the saber, and he pondered further. A saber, with its single edge, favored chopping as its primary attack. Lao Peng's hands tightened around the hilt of his saber, and a green light emanated from the weapon. A saber, heavier and broader than a sword, weighed several times more, and its offensive capabilities seemed inferior. He reached behind him, extending the saber to its full length. However, mastered saber techniques, combined with cultivated inner strength, could unleash a destructive force a sword could never achieve. With a swift pull, he brought the saber forward, its passage through the air creating a gust of wind that seemed to lift him slightly. Lao Peng put all his strength into a powerful downward slash. Where the saber's energy had passed, parallel gashes scarred the earth, following the resounding crack that echoed across the ground and the lingering trails of the saber's force. Lao Peng sighed. Suddenly, a clinking sound broke the stillness of the night. Figures clad in black, their appearance shrouded in mystery, emerged from the forest. They approached Lao Peng. Their leader spoke. As expected, the saber truly lives up to its reputation. The Hebei Peng clan saber. Lao Peng froze, staring at them before bellowing. What is the meaning of this? His face hardened with anger. The Hebei Peng clan's grounds are not yours to trespass upon. Damn you. The leader remained calm, inquiring, how is the Grand Patriarch? Lao Peng faltered, then roared, all of Jianghu knows my father has become a cripple due to qi deviation. He focused on the man's question. You deliberately ask about my father, who though alive is as good as dead, to mock me, don't you? The man smiled enigmatically at Lao Peng. He channeled his energy into his palm, the technique he employed appearing anything but benevolent. He shouted, forgive me. Seeing this, Lao Peng yelled, are you insane? He lunged forward like a cat, pouncing on a mouse. Lao Peng barely had time to raise his saber in defense. The attacker continued his assault, his empowered hand striking repeatedly towards Lao Peng. He smiled sinisterly, generating an even greater surge of dark energy. Lao Peng, witnessing this, was visibly alarmed. He unleashed a powerful blow towards Lao Peng. Despite using his saber to block, the attacker's dark energy seemed overwhelming, putting Lao Peng on the defensive. After a period of being forced back, Lao Peng decided to counterattack with his saber. However, the man not only dodged the attack, but also landed a kick on him. He landed lightly, without a scratch. Suddenly, he flung his cloak towards Lao Peng. With a few swift movements, he entangled Lao Peng within the garment. The attacker's cloak, wrapped tightly around Lao Peng, blinded him to the man's actions. He then proceeded to thrash him back and forth. Even such simple maneuvers were enough to make Lao Peng cough up blood. Lao Peng lay motionless on the ground, a large crater surrounding him. The earth and stones were shattered. He stared up at the man in disbelief. Lao Peng struggled to sit up, but the moment he did, the man in black thrust a hand brimming with poisonous energy towards his throat. A haze descended over Lao Peng, his mind reeling. Impossible. How could anyone defeat the Hebei master? Peng Ra, that's me, in just 50 moves. He stared in stunned disbelief at the man beside him, his face inches away, a cruel smile twisting his lips. Master Peng Ra's eyes swept over the assembled men in black, their bodies trembling with barely contained power. They're strong enough to overthrow Ben Ra in just 2 days. The man in black sneered inwardly, mocking the one who only knows the 8 forms of the 5-tiger severing blade technique. A cripple after his last defeat, humiliation burned in Peng Ra's gut. He was being threatened by these nobodies. Take me to the Supreme Grandmaster, he demanded, though his voice wavered. The man in black's hand, still radiating that dangerous light, remained poised near his throat. Lao Peng, swallowing his pride, could only acknowledge his defeat, sitting there, powerless against them. Damn them. Behind the mountain, a wooden house, the dwelling of the Supreme Grandmaster, glowed with a warm, golden light. The radiance spilled through the cracks in the door and windows, illuminating the surrounding darkness. Inside, the leader of the men in black was tending to the elderly Grandmaster. A smoky haze, emanating from the Grandmaster's body, filled the room with an oppressive heat. The leader placed his hand on the Grandmaster's chest, channeling a dark, sinister energy into him. His face was a mask of concentration. He continued continued, using his fingers to press specific points on the Grandmaster's body. Dark veins began to appear beneath the old man's skin, as if absorbing the energy. His face contorted in discomfort, struggling to absorb the dark energy while simultaneously expelling strands of lighter energy. The Grandmaster's body trembled, his expression growing more strained. He seemed on the verge of losing consciousness, overwhelmed by the conflicting energies flowing in and out of him. The leader continued, pressing points on his back, guiding more dark energy along the pathways he had opened. Then, with the full force of his hand, he struck the Grandmaster's chest directly over his lungs. The two were now fully engaged in the healing ritual. As the leader poured his energy into the Grandmaster, the old man suddenly cried out, veins bulging across his face and body. The veins pulsed, spreading from his face down across his entire body. His eyes and mouth emitted powerful bursts of energy. His heart, stimulated by the influx of dark energy, beat with a furious rhythm. After a time, the Grandmaster's body calmed, returning to its previous state, though his breath came in ragged gasps as he struggled to regain control. Lao Ban watched in astonishment. His meridians had been opened, his energy flow restored. Could it be true? Could even demonic possession be cured? He frowned, pondering the implications. He quickly regained his composure and turned to the leader. "Father, is he awake?" he asked, his voice hushed. The Grandmaster continued to regulate his breathing, his eyes still closed. The Grandmaster's hands trembled, as if rediscovering the sensation of energy flowing through his body after a long absence. Lao Ban watched his father in silence. Relieved by the positive turn of events, a wave of joy washed over Lao Ban. The leader, standing silently behind him, sighed and then spoke. "I understand Peng clan leader's concern, but the treatment for Peng Ron's demonic possession cannot be rushed. Haste could have negative consequences for the Grandmaster." He handed a small piece of paper to old Peng, saying, "Prepare this medicine according to these instructions and give it to him to drink." He carefully instructed old Peng, "Because the poisonous ingredients outweigh the medicinal ones, you must be extremely cautious in both preparing and administering this medicine to the Grand Patriarch." He continued his meticulous instructions to old Peng. "Because the poisonous components are more potent than the medicinal ones, you absolutely must exercise extreme care when preparing and administering this medicine to the Grand Patriarch. The most crucial element in ensuring the medicine reaches all the meridians is to apply pressure to the key acupuncture points to facilitate the flow of energy. After a year, although he may not be fully restored to his former self, he will regain consciousness and gradually recover over time." Old Peng pondered the man's words, skeptical. Can this be true? He mused, lost in thought. Just who are these people, to be so skilled as to cure chi deviation caused by such powerful martial arts? A name flickered in his mind, a possible connection to the healers of Sanma. Could they be associated with Sanma? If word of my dealings with the Zima sect gets out, it could ruin my reputation in the martial world. But another thought took root, overriding his hesitation. But they did cure Father's chi deviation. If I cooperate with them, after Father's condition improves, the Peng family could become the leading power brokers in the martial world, dominating all under heaven. "There's no such thing as a free lunch," the man stated. "Now let's discuss our terms." Old Peng, well versed in the ways of the world, understood. "Nothing in life is free. Tell me what you require." The man's request was the overthrow of a rival faction, eliminate the Azure Tiger Gang in Rinshio, Hebei. Old Peng was astonished. "You possess such power. Why not handle this yourselves? Why involve the Peng family?" The man paused, considering his words. "If we act directly, it will arouse suspicion from other sections. The Heavenly Sword Clan's involvement complicates matters." He continued gravely, "But the Peng family can eradicate the Azure Tiger Gang without concern for the other Hebei sections." Old Peng picked up a thread. "Indeed, we could avoid suspicion by operating under the guise of a Peng family branch, settling in the Azure Tiger Gang's former territory and establishing our own sect there." A flicker of distaste crossed old Peng's face, but the potential for his family's advancement outweighed his reservations. "If it elevates the Peng family to the top, I'm willing to shake hands with even demons." "Very well. Give us 3 months to prepare for this undertaking." Old Peng agreed. In the meantime, the man added, "We will spread rumors and exaggerate the Azure Tiger Gang's past misdeeds. They will be branded as enemies of the entire martial world. Then, when the Peng family in Hebei suffers a stage attack, we can step in and destroy them under the guise of a Peng family branch operating in the area. Meanwhile, at the Heavenly Sword Manor, following the intersect competition, Yun Cheng sighed contentedly. There's no place like home. Time for a little light exercise. He strode briskly along the path leading to the training grounds of the Heavenly Sword disciples. A stroll and some fresh air will do me good, Yun Cheng murmured to himself. The resounding shouts of the disciples echoed through the air. 1, 2. A stern-faced elder oversaw their training. Your feet on the earth must be firm, like pillars of iron. He bellowed further instructions. Focus your chi within your core. Yin Cheng quietly opened the door and entered. Yin Cheng watched the diligently training disciples, a sardonic twist to his lips. Flipping around like that, and they think they'll become masters? They should spend more time reading. The path to power lies within books, he muttered sarcastically. One of the trainees, recognizing the young master, cried out, "Oh, young master!" The group scrambled to get a look at the renowned young master, whispering amongst themselves. It said he used 3 sword techniques and defeated the Peng family. He's amazing, they gushed. Young master truly is the most peculiar of the peculiar. Only the young sect leader could accomplish such a feat. The others echoed in agreement. Right. They chattered excitedly. So, shall we usher in the era of the Heavenly Sword Wu clan? The apple doesn't fall far from a tree. Now the Jianghu will witness the rise of our Wu family's swordsmanship. Yin Cheng could only offer a strained laugh. Ha ha ha. At their boisterous pronouncements. Seeing their enthusiasm, he decided to make his escape. I've interrupted your training. I'll be going now. The sect leader, clearly irritated, bellowed. Why all this commotion? Focus on your training. Yun Cheng strolled along the corridor, lost in thought. Status makes the man, he mused. He ambled through the gardens, a mixture of embarrassment and bewilderment on his face. Under his breath, he cursed, damn it, if only I could try again, live the way I want to. He pondered for a long moment, then sighed. Yin Cheng's mood seemed to swing like a pendulum. One moment he was sighing in frustration, the next he was clutching his head. Ow, my head. Why is everything so bright? In the midst of his turmoil, a sound resonated within his mind, leaving him dazed. How could it be that sound again? The faint sound echoed once more, but this time it was more intense. Beams of light descended from the void, converging on him. In the blink of an eye, he was transported from the garden to a dark cave. The sudden shift to this unfamiliar place filled him with a sense of dread. A buzzing sound echoed within the cave and his mind. I must quell the allure of this cave, he thought, forcing himself to calm down. He closed his eyes tightly. He struggled to focus, to resist the strange pull of the cave, but his mind seemed to wander. But what if there's a secret here, like the hidden verses in the Huang Long Du Hai? Yin Cheng sat cross-legged in the center of the cave, surrounded by floating orbs of light. He let out another sigh, and with it, a sense of clarity returned. The lights grew denser, swirling around him, forming a vortex of light. Suddenly, the lights coalesced into a colossal golden dragon, radiating brilliance within the darkness of the cave. One who possesses the qualities of the Huang Long. What does this all mean? Disbelief etched itself onto Yun Cheng's face as he stared at the dragon before him. He had been drawn into this mysterious cave, heard strange sounds, and now witnessed a dragon. Confusion overwhelmed him. The image of the Huang Long filled his mind. He murmured softly about the majesty of the imperial dragon. The image lingered, then began to fade as Yun Cheng realized he'd been dozing, drool forming a small puddle. Still adrift in that hazy space between sleep and waking, a sharp smack to the back of his head jolted him fully awake. He yelped in pain. The vision of the imperial dragon dissolved completely. Yin Cheng, rubbing his head, spun around, demanding to know who dared strike him. His bravado lasted only a moment. Seeing his attacker, he wilted. It was his older sister, her blue hair vibrant against her furious expression. Hands on her hips, she seethed, real and impressive. Asleep during training, asleep while cultivating your aura. Are you that sleep-deprived? Her overwhelming aura pinned him in place. He could only clutch his head and mumble, It wasn't on purpose. This only fueled her anger. She grabbed his ear, twisting hard. Honestly, you have no idea how to use your potential. The pain was sharp, and he yelled, "Ow, ow, ow. Sis, that hurts." Having vented some of her frustration, she sighed, releasing his ear. Folding her arms, she said, "You need to train harder. You can't afford to be weak." Yin Chung, still rubbing his ear, shot back. "Why don't you hurry up and find a husband?" His words brought a furious blush to her cheeks. Turning her back, she feigned indifference. As if I'd bother. He couldn't resist the jab. "Well, good luck with that, sis." Infuriated, she whirled around. "What did you say?" He kept his teasing grin. "Nothing." She was about to unleash her wrath when a voice called out from behind them. "Who dares cause young Master Yun Chung such distress?" A woman in a brick-red dress, her hair the color of polished wood, approached. Yun Cheng's sister froze, her face stiffening. The woman continued, "Didn't I say we must maintain proper decorum, even within the estate? From now on, you will cherish, serve, and address Yun Sung as young master." "Understood." Yun Cheng's sister looked as if her world had just shattered. Yun Chung, watching from behind, let out an innocent "uh-oh." His sister, still reeling, stammered, "What?" "I have to cherish and serve him." The woman in red, unmoved by her sister's distress, stated coldly, "That is an order. Whether you like it or not, you will obey. This will prevent further incidents like this one." Yun Cheng's sister looked utterly defeated. She walked away, her steps slow and heavy. The woman in red, ignoring her sister's despair, turned to Yun Chung. "And Yun Chung, you must also behave in a manner befitting a young master. How long do you intend to remain such a mischievous child?" Her expression was stern, her brow furrowed. Faced with her serious demeanor, Yun Chung offered a placating smile. "Yes, I understand." Seeing through his attempt to brush her off, she exclaimed, "Don't just say it, mean it." Yun Chung sighed. "Let's just rest for now. If this keeps up, everyone's going to expect me to become some kind of prodigy." Hearing this, the older sister's expression softened. "Then go and rest for a bit and take this pill." She reached inside her robe, searching for something. From within, she produced a small, red box. Inside lay something that resembled a golden pill. She addressed Yun Chung. "Not long ago, a male physician came to the house. He claimed to have found an extremely rare medicinal herb and poured all his heart and soul into creating a flower pill. He also said that even one of your older sworn brothers took this pill. Your eldest sworn brother, Baek Cheol Hyung of the Han clan in Shaoxi province. The current head is Baek Hyun Mayon, a renowned physician. This flower pill is a divine medicine, imbued with the very essence of his heart and soul." Upon hearing how precious this divine pill was, Yin Chung hastily waved his hands. "Then you and my sworn brother should take this divine medicine." Hearing this, a faint blush crept onto her cheeks. "Your sworn brother has already taken it. Then isn't this pill for you?" Her blush deepened, her embarrassment growing. "I'm pregnant, so I can't take it, so you should take it." She offered it to him. Yin Chung quickly recoiled, waving his hands. "No, I can't take it." Not giving him another chance to refuse, she reached out and pinched his mouth open, forcing him to part his lips. She popped the pill inside. Open wide. I wasn't ready. The pill slid down Yun Cheng's throat. He felt as if he were about to choke to death. Finally swallowing, he said dizzily, "Sister, we didn't listen to me at all. You just do what you want." Before he could say anything more, his lower abdomen began to churn. His eyes rolled. "My stomach is cramping. My intestines feel like they're burning." She pushed him down into a sitting position, smiling. "Come now, quickly assume the meditation posture and circulate your chi." Forced into a seated position by his sister, Yun Cheng's head spun. Damn it, he thought frantically. "I want to throw it up, but the divine medicine has already gone down into my stomach." He sat in meditation, but his core was already ablaze. A fire raged within him. His hands quickly became slick with sweat, reddened by the heat of the flames. Fiery chi surged. Tendons stood out on his neck. His eyes began to darken. Sweat trickled down his skin. Strange veins pulsed around him like a cobra slithering across his skin. The network of veins became prominent all over his body. His entire form flushed red from the heat. He groaned softly. Quickly circulate your chi in the Heavenly Mother Force, heart method of our clan." The veins on his face gradually subsided. The temperature of his skin began to cool. He exhaled slowly. Yin Chen closed his eyes, focusing intently. The chi around him surged like a tempest. He pressed his lips tightly together as the qi continued to intensify, surprising even his sister. The aura around Yun Sheng swelled dramatically, and his body temperature rapidly increased. He opened his eyes. They glowed like two radiant orbs, rather like Sun Wukong. The brilliant light didn't last long before it gradually softened. Yun Sheng's eyes immediately returned to normal. The surrounding cloud of spiritual energy seemed to extinguish. He felt as if all his strength had drained away. His older sister, standing behind him, murmured, "Wow, that's really effective. Clearly, your constitution is much better after absorbing the elixir." Hearing his sister's words, Yin Sheng burst into tears, though they didn't seem to be tears of joy. Tears and snot streamed down his face. "I almost died. I thought my insides were melting." Listening to Yun Sheng's complaints, his sister simply smiled gently. Why does the son of a swordsman hate drinking elixirs more than snake soup? Feeling teased, Yin Sheng immediately jumped to his feet and quickly darted away. "I'm going." His feet felt lighter than ever, a strange sensation. Yin Sheng quickly turned his head back. "Huh, whoa." To his sister's astonishment, he leaped into the air with incredible ease. Not only was his sister surprised, but he was even more so. He landed back on the ground in a panic. "Oh my god." Yun Sheng's expression was one of utter bewilderment. The effects of that medicine are no joke. His sister, standing nearby, quickly regained her gentle composure. "Now, you need to control your strength properly," she told him. The afternoon transitioned into evening, and darkness quickly descended. In this deepening twilight, a temple at the foot of the mountain seemed quite bustling. Dark-colored pillars shaped the temple, covered in a dense layer of talismans. Inside, many people gathered. Most prominent was a man in white robes seated in the center, surrounded by figures in black cloaks with their heads covered. Only one seemed to have their face exposed. They sat around the man in white, the scene resembling an exorcism ritual. The red-haired man was deeply focused, murmuring something that sounded like an incantation. The longer he chanted, the more the characters around him began to coalesce. He opened his eyes wide, uttering a final phrase as if preparing to complete the rite. After the incantation, he pushed his hands towards the man in white, directing a stream of energy at him. The surrounding figures also raised their hands one by one. A barrage of talismans and magic surged towards the white-clad man with a bushy black beard. He gritted his teeth as if enduring excruciating pain. Those around him intensified their spellcasting. The bearded man couldn't hold back a cry. More and more characters flowed towards him, the increasing power becoming unbearable. His mouth began to open. His eyes no longer looked human, widening and emitting a magical light. His mouth was forced open. Streams of incantations assaulted his vision. His eyes remained wide, and those surrounding him continued chanting what sounded like curses. The torrent of spiritual energy flew straight into the man's mouth. Under the extreme duress, his entire body went limp. A blinding light emanated from him, and characters now moved across his body as if he were possessed. The purple light in his eyes gradually faded, returning to their original color. The dense, swirling characters that had appeared around him began to dissipate, and his gaze regained its focus. A surge of magical energy erupted from below, lifting him slightly into the air. Sweat beaded on his brow as he raised his hands, examining them with an intense curiosity. The onlookers reacted with a mixture of emotions. Some wore expressions of utter disbelief, while others beamed with the joy of witnessing their hopes fulfilled. The red-haired man, seeing the success of the ritual, breathed a sigh of relief. The man in white robes gasped, his face darkening. He barked an order towards his son, "Bring me the demonic blade." With a respectful bow, the younger man presented a jet-black blade, holding it with both hands. "Here, father." The man in white snatched the blade, testing its weight with a few practice swings. One of the men beside him, presumably another son, cautiously inquired, "Father, are you all right?" He received a curt reply, "I'm fine." Suddenly, his face darkened again, his gaze fixed on the blade in his hand. This demonic blade, it's screaming. The red-haired man, overhearing this, approached with clasped hands. "If you take the medicine I offer, you will surely recover within half a year. Your martial prowess will return." The man in white, seemingly amused, let out a booming laugh, but his expression quickly turned serious. 3 months, he declared. "In 3 months, I must be at my peak again." The red-haired man bristled at this unreasonable demand, his brow furrowing in frustration. But the man in white interrupted, his voice taking on a sharper edge. "For the price of 10,000 taels of silver, I will fulfill any request within 1 month." The red-haired man paused, stunned by the lucrative offer, his eyes wide with disbelief. But his surprise quickly turned to annoyance as the man in white continued. "Of course, preparing such a sum within a month is..." One of the sons of the man in white stepped forward, addressing his father. "The Azure Tiger Gang is a formidable force in the underworld. Destroying them and absorbing their territory requires extensive preparation." The man in white glared at his son, his voice laced with icy disdain. "Your constant hesitation is why the Heavenly Sword Clan has surpassed us and become the dominant force in Hebei." The son flinched, stammering but his father cut him off with a roar. "We begin with the Azure Tiger Gang today. I will handle the rest." Silenced, the son could only lower his head. The red-haired man, who had been silently observing this exchange, stepped forward, clasping his hands. "Since the patriarch has shown such sincerity, I agree to the terms." With the matter settled, the crowd began to disperse. Later, as 2 figures walked together, the smaller one spoke. "Father, if we attack and seize control of the Azure Tiger Gang so brazenly, won't we invite the condemnation of all Hebei and the martial world? 1 month is too short a time to gather our forces and control the Green Tiger Gang. They're not just for show, you know." Lao Peng, silent until now, gritted his teeth in agreement. "If Master Sang fully recovers his martial arts skills, then everything will be possible." He turned back to his son and roared. "Then the Peng family will become the most powerful sect in Hebei. We won't just stop there. We'll become the supreme rulers of the martial world. And you just need to train harder to quickly master our family's secret saber techniques." The green-haired young man, his face pale with sweat, cowered under his father's furious gaze. He could only stammer out a meek agreement. The scene shifts to a tavern. The air outside is cool and refreshing, but inside, the atmosphere is lively. People come and go, and nearby, there's a stable. Inside the tavern, a young woman sits with a melancholic expression. Anyone watching might think she was heartbroken. Lost in thought, she sighs and pours herself another cup of wine. Her attendant, hovering nearby, seems unsure how to console her. She drinks with an air of frustration, downing the wine like water. The attendant reaches out as if to stop her. "Miss, please don't drink anymore," she pleads. "You've had too much." Though she wants to stop her mistress, she doesn't know how. Perhaps that last cup has truly pushed her over the edge. The young woman sways, then shouts, "Don't stop me. If I don't do this, I'll burst." She slams her empty cup on the table with such force that the nearby wine jug wobbles. "Damn it," she mutters. Something is clearly troubling her deeply. Something she can't resolve or share with anyone. So she drowns her sorrows in alcohol. Without another moment's hesitation, she grabs the jug and pours, but this time, nothing comes out. Just a single drop lands in her cup. She stares, stunned by how quickly it's gone. "Oh," she murmurs, her frustration growing. "Avalda." The young woman slams her fist on the table again, the force of the blow threatening to break the already unsteady furniture. "What is this? No more wine? Wine. Bring me more wine." Her attendant, realizing she's completely drunk, can only hover behind her, ready to catch her if she falls. "And miss," she stammers. The entire tavern is disturbed by the commotion. Everyone turns to see where the drunken demands are coming from. At another table, a group of men are eating, swords at their sides. The attendant, intimidated by the attention, whispers, "Please, miss, don't cause a scene." But the young woman, lost in her inebriation, ignores her, continuing to yell, "Wine, wine." One of the men from the other table eyes her with a predatory gaze. It's unclear what thoughts are running through his mind, but he stares intently, a lewd smile spreading across his face. He's a member of the Lake Gang, the young master of the 9 Dragons estate. He raises his own cup to his lips. The Lake Gang is one of the 5 gangs under the Xing Dao faction in Hebei. Their leader, Chota Shur Tion, the Phantom Sword, is known for his tyrannical nature and formidable reputation. Likely, everyone here knows who he is and wouldn't dare cross him. In the shady district near Hebei, the word of the gang was law. Everyone obeyed. He, with his powerful backing, swaggered through the Nine Dragons district. His gaze, growing more and more obvious, lingered on the drunken young woman. He licked his lips, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Meanwhile, she continued to fuel the tavern's boisterous atmosphere. "Wine," she roared. "The bottle's empty. Bring me more wine." She brandished the empty bottle, her voice echoing through the room. It was strange. Despite the clamor, no one seemed to be bringing her more. The servants attending her could only plead softly, "Miss, please." But how could they restrain someone so intoxicated? The man, Zhang Honghu Bang, watched her, a smirk playing on his lips. His intentions were unclear, but he had been observing her for some time. Zhang Honghu Bang finally rose to his feet. "All right," he said, "time to begin the show." His words were laced with a sinister undertone. Whether or not there was a hidden meaning, it certainly didn't bode well. He sauntered towards her table, a sword in his hand. His steps were confident, unafraid. Behind him, his men followed, their presence a silent threat. She, oblivious, continued to sway drunkenly. Her attendant watched with growing anxiety. At a nearby table, 3 men watched Zhang Honghu Bang approach the young woman, their faces etched with pity. One of them clicked his tongue disapprovingly. Another muttered, "Looks like another girl's about to be devoured." The third man quickly hushed him. "Don't speak so carelessly. You'll get us killed." It seemed that everyone in the tavern, whether they wanted to help the young woman or not, was powerless to act. They could only watch. She wasn't the first he had targeted this way. He reached her table and cleared his throat, drawing her attention. His men leered at her, their expressions mirroring their leaders, perverse and unsettling. He spoke to her in a deceptively gentle voice, as if trying to coax her before resorting to force. "You seem to be out of wine. Allow me to buy you a bottle." The drunken young woman looked at him with a puzzled expression. She seemed to be wondering why the stranger had suddenly appeared, offering to buy her a drink. There had to be an ulterior motive. Her attendant, equally apprehensive, watched Zhang Honghu Bang while supporting the young woman to keep her from falling. She stammered, "Miss, who is this?" The man clasped his hands together in a mock greeting. "Zhang Honghu Bang," he announced, "Sub-District Chief of Nine Dragons District." This introduction was meant to sober her up, to make her realize that she wasn't dealing with an ordinary man. But his words seemed to have little effect. She looked at him with a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "I don't care who you are," she slurred. "Go back to your own table." She didn't need to make new acquaintances or accept drinks from strangers. All she wanted was a bottle of wine on her table and to be left alone to drink it in peace. Despite being dismissed, the man chuckled softly. "Ha ha," he continued, undeterred. "Don't be so harsh. It seems everyone's run out of wine. If I manage to procure a bottle for you, would you allow me to sit beside you?" He seemed to have identified her weakness, alcohol. His offer was tempting, but she raised her hand dismissively, as if she didn't want to speak to him anymore. "Ugh," she groaned, leaving him momentarily stunned. Why would a woman like her refuse his advances so readily? She looked at him with a touch of annoyance. "I have plenty of money," she stated, her tone carrying a subtle sting of insult. The words hung in the air, a clear declaration of her independence. It was as if she was saying she didn't need anyone buying her anything, that she was perfectly capable of taking care of herself. Tron Ho Bang watched her, his face hardening with anger. "This little girl," he muttered through gritted teeth. He had been so patient, so gentle, and yet she continued to rebuff him at every turn. "This arrogant little thing," he thought. "She has no idea who she's dealing with." Her attendant, seeing the fury building on Trong Ho Bang's face, feared for her mistress's safety. She quickly stepped forward, pointing a finger at him and shouting, "Leave now." He must have been seething. First, this beautiful young woman had rejected his every advance, and now her servant dared to dismiss him. He felt like a complete fool. "Damn it," he thought, his jaw clenched tight. "This is humiliating." With a cruel smirk, he reached out and pinched the attendant's cheek, mocking her. He tried to laugh, but the sound came out strained and unnatural. "I'm trying to be nice here, little one," he sneered. The young woman, seeing her servant treated so disrespectfully, finally snapped. Without a second thought, she grabbed her drink and threw it in his face. Startled, he released the attendant. Both the attendant and Trong Ho Bang stared at her, stunned by her sudden action. His own attendants, witnessing their master being splashed, trembled. They feared he would erupt and cause a scene, turning the whole place upside down. How dare she? He fumed inwardly. No one treats me like this. She regained her composure, the outburst seeming to have cleared her head. Now, go back to where you belong, she commanded, her voice icy, or you'll regret it. Her gaze was sharp and unwavering. He stared back, taken aback, not by fear, but by her breathtaking beauty. His anger, momentarily forgotten, dissipated in the face of her captivating presence. He bowed theatrically, clasping his hands together. Oh, forgive me, my lady, he pleaded, his voice dripping with false sincerity. Your beauty has simply overwhelmed me. The young woman, however, found his antics tiresome. Why doesn't he just leave? She wondered, silently wishing him gone. As if reading her mind, he leaned closer, a playful smirk returning to his face. And what will you do if I don't? He taunted, forcing her to recoil. She sighed, picking up the red sword that lay beside her. I will kill you, she stated flatly. He blinked, surprised by her words and the weapon in her hand. Such a threat, coming from a young woman, seemed almost absurd. She continued, a chilling conviction in her voice, and not just you. I'll burn your entire clan to the ground. He stared at her, bewildered. What? He thought, struggling to comprehend her words. Straightening up, he thought, such arrogance. She must have someone powerful backing her. He assumed she, like him, had influential connections, which fueled her confidence and brazen words. Trong Ho Bang stood there, grinding his teeth, lost in thought. He and his followers were a force to be reckoned with, feared by many. If she was a disciple of a powerful sect, it would be best to avoid a confrontation. A wave of apprehension washed over him, his mind racing with possibilities. He glanced at everyone around him. Most of them appeared to be drinking and chatting, but they were all subtly watching his exchange with the young woman, anticipating his next move. He saw it all and thought, if I just obey her like this, what face will the Tiger Claw gang have left? He was in a difficult position. If he offended someone of high rank, he could be killed. But if he remained silent and did nothing, he would lose face. The woman, perceiving his apprehension, slammed her sword on the table and said with a sneer, Ha! Don't just stand there with that dumb look on your face. She waved her hand dismissively, sighing and saying, Go on, get out of here, go. The added emphasis on go made it seem as if she were shooing away a bothersome dog. The Tiger Claw gang member felt insulted. His anger simmered. He had been gritting his teeth and enduring her arrogance. But she seemed unafraid, even haughty, as if she had someone backing her up. He thought to himself, look at her, so unbelievably arrogant. He had reached his limit. He kicked out, upending her table. Food splattered from the dishes, shocking both the woman and her servant. Her dismissive words had pushed him over the edge. He didn't care who she was anymore. He couldn't let himself be humiliated in a tavern like this. As he kicked the table, he roared, Who dares disrespect the underboss of the Tiger Claw gang of the 9 Dragons, Rita? The overturned table was a clear challenge. Unafraid, the woman drew her sword and shouted at her servant to get back. The servant, worried for her mistress's safety, reached out as if to stop her, but who could restrain her in such a rage? The servant stammered a few words. Seeing her draw her sword, the Tiger Claw gang member showed no fear. He drew his own blade from its sheath. Look at this, he snarled, trying to gain the upper hand. The petite young woman struck first, slashing at him. Ack, where did this lowlife come from? She cried. This was truly unfortunate. She just wanted to drown her sorrows in peace, not get tangled up with this thug. Each of her strikes was powerful, as if she intended to avenge the annoyance he had caused her. He couldn't counterattack, only passively block her swift and forceful blows. He could barely move his sword, only managing to deflect her attacks, unable to retaliate. Her relentless assault forced him to retreat. What the? He exclaimed, astonished. He hadn't expected such skill from a young woman like her. At this rate, he would be the one at a disadvantage. He lunged forward, yelling, I'll kill you. He charged, bringing his sword down in a powerful blow. She just managed to block it, but the force of the impact nearly knocked her off balance. His sudden attack had caught her by surprise, but she reacted quickly. Even drunk, she was still as formidable as ever. Seeing that he had regained the upper hand, he addressed her with utter arrogance. A mere servant girl, and you dare speak to me like that? He then slammed his sword down, forcing her to release her own. She sighed, clearly weary of this opponent. Her initial fascination with the sword before her had quickly faded. Look at me, she thought, her frustration simmering. I'm not as helpless as you seem to think. If it were for the drink I'd had, you'd be lying dead